Mandy snuggled deeper into the large recliner in her bedroom, on the second floor of her house, shifting the laptop she was watching a movie on to a better angle. It wasn't really much of an upstairs, just one giant room with stairs in the middle. At some point, she hung up thick curtains to keep in the heat in her bedroom in the winter from the wood stove and the cold air in during the summer when she ran the air conditioner. This also served to divide the giant room into 2 rooms, making her bedroom feel cozier. Piercing screams of terror accompanied the horror film Mandy had selected earlier, and she was deeply engrossed. Her favorite movies were horror films, and this one had grabbed her attention from the beginning. The group of teenagers piddling around in the Appalachian Mountains on a camping trip were dwindling down one by one until there was only one intrepid camper left, one of the girls. Mandy laughed with each death, a sense of relief at the end, her irritation flooding through her. Oh, the kids were so annoying you couldn't help but want them to die and go away. The last girl, the final girl, was different though, and Mandy watched with interest, hoping the girl would survive. The crazed murderer wearing a ballerina costume over his sweatpants and sweatshirt had just found the girl's hiding spot, and Mandy was frantically chewing on her finger when she heard a noise by the stairs. She looked over thinking her dog had come up the stairs, but didn't see anything through the curtains. Mandy refocused on the movie, forgetting that second of fright that had caused her heart to skip a beat as the girl on the screen confronted the murdering giant out to end her days. Mandy saw the final girl slicing the head off the psychotic ballerina with a handy axe she'd found, and cheered as the credits started to roll. Feeling tired, she turned the movie off, got into her bed, and quickly found something else to fall asleep to, putting her headphones on to drown out the noise of the factory crew getting off of work at 4 a.m. They all had to race out of the parking lot and zoom by her house, mufflers breaking the quiet peace of the night, as fast as they could in a race to get home before the others did. Mandy was soon asleep, dreaming about Irish housekeepers insisting people have a cup of tea, which confused her even in her dream. Earlier that day, Mandy left the front door open so she didn't have to keep letting her pets in and out. Summer was finally arriving, so it was nice to have the door open, to warm the house up some, Mandy thought as she stood in the doorway, letting the sunlight warm her face before going through to the kitchen. She spent the rest of the day going back and forth between upstairs and down, cleaning several different rooms, taking washed and folded clothes to the bedroom beside the bathroom, closing doors behind her as she went, not paying attention to anything that might have come into the house without her knowing. The loud music she danced around to as she cleaned her home also buffered the noise of anything that might have alerted her to something unusual happening. Mandy lived alone, in a remote part of the town. Not many people came by to visit her, so she wasn't watching for anyone and didn't pay any attention to any noises she may have heard over the music. She dismissed anything that may have alerted her to an intruder as one of her pets playing around, well, if she noticed anything at all. Mandy was up to her elbows in her oven, scrubbing off a sauce that had burned into the bottom, so she didn't notice the figure that slid over her porch steps, through her front door, and into her home. She didn't see anything slide onto the empty space between her cheap couch, following her Yorkshire Terrier named Gidget, or later into a bathroom, stalking her cat Buttons, who escaped through a window. The creature became trapped in the room when the wind blew the door closed, and didn't get back out until Buttons, having figured out how to open the door as a kitten, opened it back up hours later when she returned. The creature moved out of the room and heard Mandy's movie playing upstairs. The screams of the dying teenagers attracted the creature to the stairs. Slowly, it pulled itself along the carpet in the hallway, straining to get up the stairs. A closer inspection of the creature pulling itself along the floor would have revealed a lack of legs below the knees. This is why the creature was crawling. Further inspection would also have revealed the creature to be a human form, wearing a uniform from the factory up the road from where Mandy lived. Its fingers were bloody stumps, with some of the finger bones showing through, testament to how far the creature had dragged itself. Its face was scratched, One long gouge ran down the side of its face, where the tarmac on the road had roughly worn away the skin. Slowly, the creature pulled its body up the steps, making only a sliding noise as it moved along. This wasn't a loud noise, just a whisper of cloth against wood that wouldn't be heard over the noise of the movie. Near the top of the stairs, the bone sticking through the creature's fingers scraped the wood of the stairs deeply, the cause of the noise that had broken Mandy's concentration. If Mandy's dog had been more vigilant, it would have alerted Mandy to the creature's presence. But Gidget was busy being naughty, digging through the small trash can in the kitchen he'd knocked over to pilfer through. The lid had come off when it tipped over, and she'd found some yummy morsels of leftovers from tonight's steak dinner to nibble on. Gidget was not going to save her mistress tonight. Mandy turned over in her sleep, her arm dangling from the bed, her hand just out of reach of the creature. The crawling dead thing had finally made it to the side of her bed, though she didn't know it. Kicking the covers off, she rolled flat onto her stomach, her dangling arm now coming up to prop her head up under the pillow. The creature silently grunted in frustration, wanting to taste the flesh of Mandy's long, slim fingers. Grabbing onto the bed, the creature tried dragging itself up, but could not. The struggle up from the factory as it followed Gidget, who toddled up to check their trash cans for morsels, up the steps of Mandy's house, throughout the house and up the stairs, had damaged its arm muscles, and now the creature could barely pull itself anywhere. The sound of Mandy's snores drove it to try harder. It needed to taste her blood, to feel her tissue between its teeth. If it could have made any noises beside a whispered grunt, it would have giggled in joy when she, again, stuck her arm out from the bed. The creature reached up, just barely catching Mandy's fingers in its grasp. Moved its mouth closer to her slim fingers, blood-stained teeth opening wide to take a bite, but could not quite reach them with the position it was in. Being a deep sleeper, Mandy didn't notice this impending assault. Mandy shifted again, and her hand slipped out of the creature's grasp. Still asleep, she reached for the covers once more and resumed snoring. The creature lay there, waiting, for hours, but no body part showed itself again. Mandy's snores offered hope of the meal it craved, so it didn't move from her side all night. The creature lay still, waiting. It could still grasp, but couldn't pull itself up the bed to have its longed-for meal. Silently, it waited, hoping an appendage would present itself soon. All night long the creature waited, longing for another chance at an arm or a leg. With the patience of things dead but not quite motionless yet, it lay there, knowing its chance would come. At some point during the night, the dog had gone through the doggy door downstairs, and, scenting a rabbit, spent the next few hours hunting wild things in the woods until it found another creature like the one in Mandy's bedroom. This one could still walk, could chase in fact, and chased poor Gidget down. The bone from Mandy's steak was Gidget's last meal. Waking a few hours into the creature's vigil, Mandy felt an urgent need to use the bathroom. Her final thought before getting up and placing her foot on the floor was that she shouldn't have had that last beer before bed. Her next thought was to register a deep, burning pain and surprise as the creature bit into the back of her leg, severing the tendon that kept her standing up. Mandy didn't know it, but she was now infected. She too would soon be another one of the newly made creatures roaming the countryside looking for a meal, and more importantly, a host. Falling to the floor, Mandy used her other leg to kick out at whatever had just bitten her. She couldn't see anything in the dark, but she could feel the blood draining down her leg and over her heel, and the pain from the missing chunk in the back of her leg. More embarrassingly, the combination of sleep, pain, and terror caused her overfilled bladder to release. Letting the moment of embarrassment pass almost unregistered, Mandy kicked and pulled herself away from the creature. Reaching the stairs, she pulled herself upright. Hobbling, she made it down the stairs and outside. She grabbed her keys on the way out and hopped down the porch steps to her car. Getting in on the driver's side, Mandy locked the doors and started the car, sitting for a moment, hoping the tremors that rocked her body would stop. Trying to figure out what to do next, Mandy pulled out of her driveway and onto the road. She left her cell phone in the house, so she couldn't call for help. Driving, still shaking and not thinking clearly, Mandy drove by another creature without seeing it on the side of the road, reaching towards the car. She drove to the nearest hospital, about 5 miles away. She screamed for help, and soon nurses and other hospital staff were pouring out of the emergency room. There, in the soon overwhelmed hospital, Mandy would die, like many others, and would rise again. She became a creature craving the blood and flesh of others for its survival, passing along an entity that needed a host, a devourer and a vector for the plague that would soon bring humanity to its knees.
Hey there. Thank you so much for taking the time to drop by and listen to this story today. It really means a lot to me. I put a lot of time and effort into making these videos, so it's nice to know that there's someone out there listening. Do me a little favor, would you? Click that like button, leave a comment, and if you really feel like it, why not subscribe too? Okay, happy tales everyone. See you soon.